What's happening? What's happening? You are now watching Juke Boy Sports Show. I'm your host, King Ralph, here with the homie and my co-host, the homie Kai. What's popping?
Yo, what's poppin', man? I'm good, man. And I'm super excited. Had a great weekend, man. Living good, eating good, the whole
Good.
nine, man. So I'm happy to be here, bro.
Health is wealth out here.
Yeah.
And before we get started, send a shout out to the sponsor. We haven't been in the studio in a minute, but we still rock with the Fit Boxer. If you want to do any podcasts, photo shoots, music videos, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fit Boxer. Make sure you follow all of our individual socials and collectives. Follow mine. You see it at the bottom. That goes for TikTok, Instagram, Twitch. Add an underscore for Twitter.
And you can follow me on IG at the.house of hoops, baby.
Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you follow, share, subscribe. If you rock with the show like that, share it. But it's the he say, she say, all one chunk.
Yes,
Channel,
please remember to share.
share, get the word out. We need the word of mouth. If you rock with us,
Mhm.
that get so many people. It's like, oh, we love your show.
Yeah.
Hey, rock with it, share it. Go on Instagram at J.U.K. Sports Show. But got a lot to get to, man. Some crazy storylines, suspensions, and people finally talking for the first time and trying to get their Heisman's back and clear their
Yeah.
name. But before we get to all of that, Tua and the Dolphins eke out a victory against the Buffalo Bills. Great game, by the way. But
Yeah.
in that game, just before halftime, Tua scrambling, throws the ball, gets hit, hits the back of his head, stands up, visibly shaken up, stumbles. After halftime, he comes back and plays. After the game, his coach came out and said he does not have a concussion. He passed all the protocols. He had an issue with his back on a quarterback sneak. Tua himself said he thinks he hyperextended his back. That's why he stumbled. Are you buying or selling?
I'm selling. Um, as someone who I've had a scalp contusion at work one time. My old job, I had a Taliban hit me. I fell off a truck and a Taliban, bam, smacked my head, and that was crazy. And I felt some type of way. So I was close to almost a concussion. And to see, the reason why I sell is I do believe that his back. I believe what they're saying about his back. I actually truly do, but I don't believe that was a cause of the stumble of the walk, right? Because what I'm taught, when I got my degree in kinesiology, was the symptoms of the concussions, right? And so obviously his inability to move side to side, and he's stumbling and all that kind of stuff in the back of his head wound up hitting. I was like, bro, like, dude, that's not good. And so you go through concussion protocol with the numbers, they make you do all kinds of different things, right? But we weren't back there in the tents, we weren't back there in the locker room. And I just think that because it was a head on him hitting in the back of his head, I'm like, no, I'm weary, and everyone else was like, visibly he looks shaken, like he should not be out there. And so I'm thinking, Ralph, it's a division game. You're going up against a division opponent. Seeding matters, always will always matter. This is the team that has had your number over the course of multiple years. So you don't think that they truly didn't want to win that game through it by any means necessary. We've had people like Brett Favre play with concussions. Tom Brady and his wife talked about how he had a concussion in a game. So just for me, I have to sell because I don't believe that they're able to realistically convince me, just in my personal opinion. This is my personal opinion. They weren't able to say anything that was going to convince me that he didn't have a concussion based off of what I saw. That's all I got.
I agree, man. I'm not gonna be too long on it because I'm
Yeah.
selling well. We always say, and what I said last week, we was gonna start hashtagging tape don't lie. Tape don't lie. I've had back injuries. I've had knee and ankle injuries.
Yes.
I've never had a head injury. But to me, that looked like you stumbling from getting hit hard. So it looked like concussion, looked like a concussion to me. But on to the next one. The NFL has made some changes to Pro Bowl. Sad to see it go because I have some great memories as a kid. But it is because they're going to have a week-long festivities, skills, non-football skills challenges throughout the week. It'll be here. It'll take place here in Las Vegas in February. The 2nd of February, there's going to be a college football East-West Shrine game on February 2nd, and then flag football for the Pro Bowl itself on February 5th. Are you buying or selling these changes?
I'm actually going to buy the changes. I like the changes because the Pro Bowl didn't bring in viewership like it used to.
Right.
And I guess it's a meaningless game because I'm like, what about home field advantage, right? If I'm not mistaken, I thought in the back in the day when we were coming up, you correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to put out any false information, but I believe in the early 2000s and in the late 90s and all that kind of stuff, the winner of the Pro Bowl had like some type of home field advantage in the Super Bowl or something like that. I could be wrong, guys. Definitely correct me if I'm wrong. Leave a comment. Anyone watching, leave a comment. But because I remember you would have the AFC, we would have the NFC, right, Ralph? And then the game was just so competitive. Like you had the Sean Taylor hit on the punter. You had Mike Vick, Brett Favre all in one team. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just crazy. And we would watch all 4 quarters. But then I think they take away like the incentive of it. And then you have players that don't want to play in it. So I'm buying it. And then at the end of the day, I like flag football. Flag football is cool. I think you should have a fastest man race. That was something that I looked forward to. I remember when Steve Smith was in the fastest man race, Ahmad Green, guys of that ilk. So I'm cool with the flag football pickup, having some festivities for some of the some of the patrons, some of the people on the outside, while they're there. I like the location of it. Even though Hawaii was cool, but this is accessible because you're still going to bring tourists from other states because Vegas is a tourist attraction. So if you're not able to get to Hawaii, you can still get to Vegas. Right. So I'm actually going to buy it. I'm not going to miss the Pro Bowl only because, like you said, it's not what it was when we were coming up. So I'm going to buy the changes to the that they did.
And me too, man. I'm not going to be too long. Yeah. Once again, we agree. We agree again.
All right.
We have so many different memories of more than just football growing up. Remember the flag football game in the sand. Who can the ball the furthest? Who's the most accurate? Who has the best hands? I think if you put more emphasis on the skills challenges throughout the week, because it could be, you can make it be like the All-Star weekend for NBA. Because as well as the game, we want to see the dunk contest at one point. We want to see the 3-point contest. We want to see the skills challenge. What was it? The 3-on-3 that we had in the early 2000s, late 90s, where it was you had an old player, you had a WNBA player,
old legend, and all that.
Mid-range 3-point. So we want to see the different skills that make the game what the game is that we love to see. So I think that if you make it fun, have something where like how we just had the draft here, where people in the community can come meet the players and actually interact with it. I think it can grow the sport. And I think it could be, you can twist it to where it ends up being a great thing because the games got so lame.
Entertainment is the key.
2-hand touch at one point last year. Like, I'm not
trying to. That was whack. I'm sorry. That was whack. Yeah. Exactly. 2-hand touch,
So on this last one, during Media Day, and we will be, after the show, stay tuned. We will be coming back at you guys talking about Media Day, but in Milwaukee's Media Day, Giannis Antetokounmpo was asked some questions as far as how he felt about being ESPN's top NBA player. He went on to say that, in quotes, I feel like the best player is the one who is the last standing. So therefore, Steph Curry was able to wield his team to a win in a championship. He is the best player in the league. Now I'm going to sit here and I'm going to take the lead on this one.
You go ahead.
And we talked about it off camera. Giannis does a really good job of staying humble and staying hungry. I was telling one of my coworkers the other day that Jerry Seinfeld said it best on Wale's album About Nothing. You don't want to get comfortable because success is the greatest enemy. So where you start to get comfortable when you're the best player in the league, you've won MVPs, defensive players, championships, finals MVPs. You start to lose that hunger that you had being that no-name player coming from Greece, where we just see the potential, but we didn't necessarily see him as the best player because even him coming in the same draft with Jabari Parker, we looked at Jabari Parker as that guy far beyond. And so now we're looking at a certain place where he's arguably the best player in the league. And so I do think it's a part of that. But also there's some people who just genuinely believe in like the best player in the league is the best player on the best team. And that's the part that I just will always, that's the hill I'm willing to die on. That is not the case.
Right.
Because in order to be the best player, in my personal opinion, you have to have the least holes in your game. And so sometimes being the best player doesn't mean you're on the best team. Because it is one of those things, and we'll get into the list in a little bit. We are going to literally talk about it in the very next topic.
That's going to be fun.
But with Kevin Durant, I think that like Kevin Durant has the least amount of holes in his game. But last time we saw him, he did look terrible.
Yeah.
So it makes it hard to make him and put him as the number one. But it puts a bad taste in your mouth.
All right. So are you buying?
So I'm selling the idea that's
selling, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because like you're buying, you selling. I was like, okay. No, I hear you. Yeah, and I definitely understand where you're coming from. And my thing is because I want people to understand. Mine's kind of like how you're saying. Follow closely what I'm saying. Like Giannis is humble. It's Giannis being humble, but then I buy the fact that he actually believes it because for him to be the best, he believes he has to be at the mountaintop. And so that's why I was able to sit back. And now that I've heard how he reacted, remember last year in his press conference where he said LeBron is, and then he said, well, maybe Luka, maybe AD, because he likes to be the hunted and it keeps him going. But I'm like in the back of my mind, he has to think he's the best. And he actually finally admitted, he said in his press conference, after I won the championship, I fell asleep in my bed smiling. I was like, maybe I am the best player in the world. And then he's like, I see Steph Curry. And he's like, yeah, I'm not. He told Malika Andrews in another interview, he's like, yeah, I was kind of jealous of like Golden State and all that kind of stuff. So that tells me that he wants to win. I actually believe he's the best. They use the word most dominant on TV all the time because they don't want to give him the title, whatever. But sometimes you're the best player, Ralph, but you're not on the best team. And last year, the Warriors were the best team throughout the course of the season. And I feel like with Giannis, like, dude, like you took the Celtics 7 games without Chris Middleton. Like you give yourself some credit. You know what I'm saying? Like you really did that, right? Shaq did have holes in his game with the hack of Shaq. I mean, they definitely avoided the Utah Jazz. Like he said it, Phil Jackson said it. Giannis, some of that mid-range jumper could get fixed, but he's just so imposing on people. So I think he's the best. But I think with Steph Curry, I heard Steph Curry respond. He was like, "Oh, cool," and all that. But he's like, I hope that doesn't. I hope he doesn't think I'm softening him up. He said, I hope that he doesn't think his comments are going to soften me up from during the season. So I like the mutual respect. I think they're all in there. And then to end it, I think what you said with KD, I think that for me personally, you cannot have a list. You cannot have a list with KD outside of the top 5. Right. For me personally. And I do believe that Giannis is the best. I'm selling that Curry is the best. No shade. I just think that Curry is up there, but his team was better. And I'm buying the fact that Giannis believes what he says.
Right. True.
That's it.
I agree with that. I can rock with that. On to the next one. Like I said, that top 25 NBA players list. It's bigger than 25. I think they did 50, but I don't care about 20 for 50 to 26. We're not trying to hear that.
Fred VanVleet.
Exactly. No disrespect to those guys.
No disrespect. He cold though, but yeah, no disrespect.
Right. So at 25, we got the 21-year-old young gun, Anthony Edwards. What was it? 27 spots from 52 all the way to 27. We got Donovan Mitchell coming down from 18 to 24. At the age of 26, Bam Adebayo at 23. Jaylen Brown and Chris Paul to round out. Where do you feel about where these players are?
Move Donovan ahead of Bam because Bam was a liability in the playoffs. Like literally, like he was great in the regular season. Defense is cool, but you need a jump shot, bro. Right. Like you need a jump shot. Get that little Rasheed Wallace, and he's cool. I like Edwards. Top 25, cool. I'm good with it.
I'm actually really good where everybody is. I do feel you as far as Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, we're talking about one spot. Yeah.
Right. Because it's like at the end of the day, it was like we talked about with KD. You get a bad taste in your mouth when the last time you seen them But if you talk about their games and as a whole, as much as Bam Adebayo can sometimes be a liability on offense, Donovan Mitchell has not shown me that
All right.
that
On defense.
so I don't care how many points you score.
That's
If you
true.
give if you get scored 35 and
Mhm.
then give up 30, I still don't want to hear that. Like I
Yeah.
don't care about that.
You're
So
negative on the end of the court, right?
exactly. So for me, I do think it's like Chris Paul is at what's he at 21, and he came down from 13. But the last
Okay.
time I've seen him, it makes sense because he just didn't look good against the Mavericks,
Mhm.
especially after Game 4.
Right,
So I
right.
don't really
And
have
he's
a
older.
problem. I'm pretty much. I like to see Anthony Edwards. I'm curious to see how he takes his game to the next level.
Mhm.
His ability to shoot, the tenacity that he has. He actually plays defense. Clear leader on that team.
All right.
So I'm kind of curious to see what happens next with that. So we got Anthony Davis at 20, Bradley Beal at 19, Rudy Gobert at 18, Jimmy Butler at 17, and Trae Young at 16. What do
Jimmy
you feel?
Butler's better than all those players.
Oh, for real, for real.
Yeah, with all due respect, I think Trae Young's cold. I really do. I think Trae, and I know we talked about Trae Young in the past. I think people are on one side of the fence with him. You know what I'm saying? But I think we all agree that he's good. Um, I think that, I should say, I'm pretty sure, not to be like Oracle, but like Deontay Murray's going to open up so many different things for him. But
Right.
Jimmy Butler, we need to give him his respect because this is 2 years now where he's led a team to the NBA Finals. He's defending the other team's best player. He almost made that shot. I mean, and he's a consummate professional. I think the only knock on him, once again, like we talked about, was there's times when he can be passive aggressive. Like, dude, be aggressive. Be
Right.
aggressive. And we finally got a chance to see it. It took to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think we said, had they played the Nets, oh, they're getting destroyed. But they didn't play the Nets, and they did what they needed to do. Give Jimmy Butler his credit because he's accomplished more than a lot of these guys that they may put in front of him. So I think he should be a little bit higher, but I know he's better than everyone in that tier for me personally.
I
Yeah.
actually think that you should take Jimmy Butler and move him ahead of some of these people I'm about to name.
Yeah, okay. Mhm. Yeah,
but
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah,
but hey,
give him his respect.
we'll get to that when we get to it. Like I think Rudy
Okay.
Gobert. I think you need to move some of those people that we mentioned already and put them in
Mhm.
front of him too.
Oh, yeah. I
Just
agree.
because like he's a complete liability on offense.
Right.
And then I think that sometimes people the word liability is used too loosely on defense
Mhm.
because there's not too many fives that can guard guards anyway.
All
So
right.
like now when you have nobody on your team that's playing defense and I'm the only one that's out here I'm guarding the paint, running out to the 3-point line, running this way, coming this way, and you're 7-2, 7-3. It's like at some
Mhm.
point you're gonna get exposed because you're not supposed to be out there in the first place.
Right.
So I think when we start to talk about Rudy Gobert, I think, and I've been one of his harshest critics, where like you showed me some tape. Like I said, tape don't lie. And so that's where
Yeah.
I kind of feel on that. I feel like you move him back a little bit, but it's not like I'm moving. I wouldn't move him out of the top 25.
Right,
I
right. He's still
move him out of
valuable,
the
yeah.
top 20.
They
And so
trade what, like 5 first-round picks for him?
yeah, that's wild. But who we got Paul George at 15,
Hmm.
Damian Lillard 14, Karl Anthony Towns at 13, your boy Kawhi at 12, and James Harden at 11.
Okay. So, whew. All right, let me kind of put this is I like this tier because there's a lot to talk about here. Paul George, I've seen everything I need to see from Paul George in terms of Paul George. I always say this: he's good enough to get you to a conference finals, but and he's gotten better from the mental standpoint. However, when he plays with Kawhi, there's been times when he disappears.
Right.
His defense has slipped in the last two or so years. He's not quite the same defender, right? But offensively, when he's on, you can't stop him, and he'll get you good enough to a conference finals, and then after that, it's like kaput. And I say that because I'll never forget this, Ralph. Game 2, when he missed those free throws, I remember I told myself and I told my dad, I was like, the series is over. I know they weren't expected to win without Kawhi Leonard, but that team was great. He took them 6 games. But I was like, bro, when he missed those free throws, I told everyone, I was like, the series is over. He choked. And Paul George, like it's right there. He's not as bad as, whatever, but and then injuries. So, and then Kawhi Leonard to me, I will continue to say this. He's top 3 for me when he's healthy, but he's not ever healthy.
Right.
So I would put him like, honestly, if I'm being objective, I will put him maybe like 8, 7 or something. But in the postseason, I want him in the postseason over
Yeah.
pretty much almost anyone on the list. He's with the KD, the Giannis's, the Curry,
Yeah.
LeBron, so I will put Kawhi in the top of that list. And I'm gonna jump Jimmy Butler over Paul George, Ralph. I'll end it with that. I'll jump Jimmy Butler over Paul George based off of having seen him take a team to the finals twice, something that Paul George hasn't done. He almost did it, but he ran to LeBron. He almost did it, but he ran into the Suns and he choked. So I think Jimmy Butler is better than Paul George at this juncture in their careers. That's what I got.
I agree with that, man. I think like we mentioned before, I would put Jimmy over some of the people that I'm about to mention. I'm definitely him over Karl Anthony Towns. I don't care about potential or what he could do. What I've seen him do, he's not a better player than Karl Anthony. Than Jimmy Butler. Kawhi is one of them people. Like, it's crazy. He wasn't even on this list last year.
Yeah.
12, and he didn't play this season. So it's like for him to not be on last year's list.
He just hurt. It's the craziest thing. It's hurt because like people don't know how to rank him.
Right.
But and he doesn't play enough in the regular season. But when the postseason starts, he looks like 97 MJ. It's
for real.
Like you're averaging 30 and 60.
He takes over games. He'll go to the rack. He completely took Luka out of the fourth quarter.
I try to tell people that there's footage on YouTube. Type in Kawhi 1-on-1 versus Luka, and he's strapping him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But anyway,
it is what it is. But
we can have a whole nother segment about that.
Exactly. I would move Kawhi. I would move Kawhi into the 10.
Yeah, that's solid. Because he's one of the 10 best in the league when he's I
feel like the very next person I'm gonna mention after this. After seeing James Harden last year, I would move him out of the 11th spot and move him down too.
Yeah, I think he's on a decline.
I would rather have Jimmy Butler than James Harden.
I agree.
And so
I can respect that.
At 10, we got Devin Booker. And then we got my man's at 9, which is one of the craziest jumps from 31 last year all the way to the 9 spot.
And
you say it all the time. What would Ja do? Ja Morant at 9. Then your boy KD at 8. Jason Tatum at 7 and LeBron at 6.
Okay.
Me,
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I definitely feel like shout out to Ja. Ja is definitely a top 10 talent. I've been on record saying that if he doesn't get hurt, we have them in the finals. Devin Booker, to me, man, I think that he hasn't showed me enough for me to feel like he's top 10. Like,
ask Luka about him.
He's an amazing offensive talent. Like,
yes.
Crazy. His bag is deep. But we wouldn't look at him like that as a top 10 talent until Chris Paul got there. So now the team's having all this success, but Chris Paul is the clear leader.
Right.
So I'm not going to say that Devin Booker's this top 10 talent where like he hasn't really showed me. I need to see more. I need to see you lock up on defense. Where I was going to mention with Steph Curry, and he's in the next 5 spots. But your offensive talent has to be so out of this world where we ignore defense to a certain degree.
Right.
And for me, I just don't see it enough, man. Like I don't see it enough from Devin Booker to put him at 10. I don't think he's better than Jimmy.
There we go. I don't either. I was like, that was something that glaring to me. I was like, nah.
I don't think he's better than Paul.
No. Paul's owned him too. Like literally, like owned him on the court before.
Right. And then
he's bigger than him.
We got Devin Booker at 10, but then we got Bradley Beal at 19, where they're pretty much the same type of player.
I think they're in the same tier. Yeah.
Right. And so, but they're 9 spots away from each other. I just can't. Right. I just won't. I can't.
One just plays on a better team too.
Exactly. I'm cool with where LeBron is at.
Yeah, me too. Respectfully.
Because I would take someone out of the 5 and put Kevin Durant in the 5. So I'm cool with LeBron being at 6.
Okay.
I'm cool with Ja at 9. I'm cool with Jason at 7.
Mhm.
I would probably move him back because I'm going to move someone out of my 5
Okay.
into that 6-7 spot.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of cool with that. And how you feel about it outside of what I just said?
No, yeah, I agree with you on the Devin Booker thing, and don't take this as Devin Booker slander, guys. I'll continue to say, and this is something that people, if you don't hoop, you don't understand this. The most important component of basketball is scoring. Period. It's scoring because that's the objective of the game, and then you're trying to prevent someone to do what? Scoring. What do NBA skills trainers tell you that all NBA players do? They work on new ways to score and score easier and more efficiently. They work on their jump shot. Don't get me wrong, playmaking and all that is cool, but that's extra fluff pieces and stuff like that.
Right.
But Devin Booker, he can put the ball in the basket. However, his impact on the team when he's like shooting high volume and all that isn't very impactful. As a guy like Steph Curry, who's running around screens all day long, tiring out the defender, so then they can't defend him, and he shoots from Bora Bora, so it's not fair, and he's highly efficient. So it's Steph Curry's a whole nother stratosphere, and like he accumulates like the most wins or something like 12 wins plus. It's crazy. So Booker, I got to put him behind the Paul Georges because I've seen him lead a team to some place in prosperity. I've seen Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum. I've seen him go toe-to-toe with Giannis. I've never seen Devin Booker go toe-to-toe with Jokic, go toe-to-toe with LeBron. You know what I'm saying? Like in a meaningful playoff game. So these are kind of additional steps. Once you start getting into the top 10, Ralph, of the NBA hierarchy, those things kind of matter to me. So I have to pull him back. And then to end it with LeBron James. LeBron at number 6 is perfectly fine. The only thing that has on him is father time, a little bit of loss of athleticism. But to be in year 20, about to surpass Kareem, average 30 points per game, that's highly incredible. His basketball IQ is insane. So I'll never drop LeBron too far unless he has like some Achilles injury. You know what I'm saying? Knock on wood.
He has to have a crazy fall off to fall out of the top 10.
Right, you know what I'm saying? LeBron is like that classic that never dies. You know what I'm saying? That classic album. So, all right.
And so we got Steph at 5,
Mm-hmm.
Joel Embiid at 4,
Okay.
Luka at 3,
Mm-hmm.
Jokic at 2,
Mm-hmm.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak, moving up 1 spot from last year, taking that top spot.
Where was KD?
KD was at 8, and KD was there last year.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
and he
so
moved 7 spots down to the 8th spot.
Did you want to set it off? Want me to set it off? How you want to
go? And this is where I say that, like, this is where I would move Steph out of the 5.
Okay.
Like we've talked about, I think everybody else's game is so well rounded where, although it is shooting and the game is turned into it's a shooter's game.
Yeah.
But KD can shoot, Luka can shoot, Jokic can shoot, Joel Embiid can shoot, but they just can't shoot to the level of Steph. But then Steph is nowhere near any of them other ones when it comes to defense. And so even Luka, to a certain degree, I would probably move Luka down. I wouldn't put Luka in front of Joel or KD yet. I would put Luka at 5 just because he does everything else at such a high clip, as well as creating for others. But part of it is the offense that Steph plays in. It's not necessarily his fault that because we've seen him get 7, 8, 9 assists on a nightly basis. So for him to be coming off of screens and things like that, it's not his fault that Draymond runs the offense or initiates the offense and then he comes off of screens and things like that. So we think that Steph is a top 5 talent, but there's only 5 spots. So I got to start nitpicking at a certain degree. And that's where I move him down.
So your 5 is go ahead.
I have everybody where I think everybody should be. I would put Joel at 2. Giannis, I definitely think Giannis is the best player. As much as I try to hold on to that fact, after what I saw from KD last year, I can't put him. I just can't put him above Giannis.
Okay.
But then the way that Joel Embiid played, and even in the playoffs, like Joel should be the 2-time MVP in the past 2 years, in my personal opinion.
Okay.
Jokic played very well after that. So
Mm.
then anywhere, KD anywhere from 3 to 4 is where I would have him. I would have him no less than 5. Jokic would be that spot that would swap. But outside of that, I would just move Steph out, bring KD in, and then reshuffle 3 through 5.
Okay. So for me, and I respect that list. For me, KD is moving up. I knocked him back. You know what is it? What did Craig David say? He's like, you take one step forward and three steps back. So yeah, I got Kevin Durant at number 5 on my list. I believe he's the 5th best player going into this season. I'm thinking about durability issues. I'm thinking about how he went out versus the Boston Celtics, then allegedly saying, we're going to lose the series. I don't know what was going on with that. I just know he looked bad.
Right.
And he's getting older, but I have him ahead of LeBron. For many a year, it was LeBron and KD, right? And so now it's and KD. We've pretty much, for the most part, the consensus is that KD has usurped LeBron James in the hierarchy right now in the last within three to 4 years. So with that said, even though KD's fallen back, he's just fallen out of my top 3. Now
Right.
I have number 5. Luka is the one that I would actually take out. I believe that Steph Curry is just simply a better basketball player than Luka Doncic. I think that Steph Curry's an underrated finisher. I think that the gravity, or should I say the gravity that Steph Curry commands is insane. He destroyed the Defensive Player of the Year. Marcus Smart couldn't do anything to him. He's performed repeatedly at the highest level on the final stage. He finally got that Finals MVP. I saw what Steph Curry did to Luka in the playoffs, and Luka was crying to the refs, and he needs to stop crying to the refs. Also, as a Kawhi Leonard fan, I know Luka airballing threes and missing free throws is a problem. So I have to put Steph Curry somewhere. I mean, I have to put Steph Curry on that pantheon. You know what I'm saying? I think just because it looks different, it's hard for people to always gauge with him. While I don't believe he's the best player in the NBA, I actually have Steph Curry in my top 3. So that's where I'm going to differ. I still have KD in my top 5. So I have KD number 5. I have whatchamacallit, number 4, Embiid number 4. I have Curry number 3. I have Jokic number 2, and then I have Giannis number 1. I think with Jokic, just seeing another season of him being able to win back-to-back MVPs, being able to be a top team in the West, now you're getting back Michael Porter Jr. Now you're getting back a Jamal Murray, but even without that, they were still able to get a game off the eventual NBA champions. We didn't know the Warriors were NBA champions at the time because a lot of people had the Memphis Grizzlies, like you said, had Ja played, getting there. But eventually, I mean, obviously Ja got hurt, but Jokic did his thing in that game. I'm like, bro, he's like, F this. I'm getting this win. So I saw something in him. And I think that the only thing that's going to change with Jokic for me personally to end it off is his efficiency, which is already good. His efficiency and his assist number will probably go up. So imagine him still averaging, what does he average, like 25, 27 a game? Imagine that actually staying the same next year, but then his assists will actually just go up because now you can't double him because you're going to have KCP. You're going to have Michael Porter. You're going to have Mr. Sauce himself, Jamal Murray, that pick and pop game now, right? So the way the Nuggets are built, they're a dangerous team. And we'll talk about that in another segment. I got them a top two seed in the West next year. So I'm gonna put Jokic at number 2, but I still got KD top 5, bro. I just can't take him out of my top 5.
I feel that.
So yeah. So that's the only way we differ.
Right. Honestly, just thinking about it now, the way you put it, I definitely would. I would move Luka out the 5 and bring Steph again. I thought it was funny. Steph was the only one that stayed in the same spot.
Oh, he stayed in the same spot as last year because he's 5. Wasn't he number 5?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm actually surprised too because ESPN got all them analytic nerds, man. They said Steph was better than Kobe, so all that blasphemy.
And Jumbo Rondo, you like to call him. Ben Simmons was on JJ Redick's Old Man in 3 podcast.
Yeah.
Just recently. I think it's a good watch. It's interesting to see how he feels, his perspective on things, and getting his side of the story. Some things I buy, most things I'm with him on it. I didn't buy the whole jersey in my pocket that wasn't a phone.
Hell no.
Because it's
I'm like, how you stuff a jersey in there?
Right. Like, for real, bro? I know what a phone look like, and I know what a jersey look like. I don't care how you
Right.
fold the jersey. You're not getting it to look like this shape. Like, nah. And
Mm.
so, what are your reactions, bro? How do you feel about it?
Man, if you want my honest reaction, or just like, no, I always be honest, man. I'm just ready for the Brooklyn Nets season to start, bro, man. Because I'm actually low key tired of this team, man. I'm tired of it all, man. But I think to answer your question straight up, when you're on a player podcast, Ralph, and I think and as we watch these, we're gonna learn more and more, right? When you're on a player podcast, especially a player who is, let's be honest, a friend of you, right? Sometimes the hard hitting questions they're not going to answer, and sometimes it can come off as a little bit pampering, a little bit, depending on who's watching it. Because I like to read the comments. I decided to read the YouTube comments, and I can already tell that there's some people out there who believe that he took no accountability for his actions at all, even though he did say that he should have done some things wrong. I mean, he should have done some things differently. And I saw him say that. It took like almost an hour, literally within the show, for him to say that. And I think some people feel like to this day that he just made excuses. Now, how do I personally feel? I feel like some people are just going to perceive it that way. I don't
Right.
know. I really don't know. I feel like actually, as much as Shaq gets on him, I rather had Shaq interview him, tell me what's really going on. Now,
Right.
that being said, as someone who's had L5 bulging disc in my back, went to physical therapy, it's there. I have to live with it unless I get surgery for it. But I was cautioned not to have surgery, or told I don't necessarily have to have surgery. His back issue, I could definitely see that being real. It's the
Right.
back. Like, it's literally like, as someone who's gone through it, I'm not going to sit up here and just be like, nah. Because there's days when what happens is, what he said, Ralph, is like, say he's lifting. He didn't mention this, but if you lift, with form, your back could lock up. So
Right.
for Stephen A to come at him and talk about how did you get hurt when you weren't even moving, but you don't know what he was actually doing.
Right.
You just think he's sitting because all you see is him sitting on TV. And so I
Right.
think he did make some good points. You don't know what he's doing. And then the smallest thing, someone could bump you wrong. You could be in a car. A lot of different, maneuvers, things could happen. Now, the whole walking up this,
Bro,
yeah, like,
in my 30s now. I know he's like mid-20s, but like
yeah.
I've definitely sneezed and like, oh, hold up, wait a
Yes.
minute.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'll swing it over to you. And my dad will always laugh at it, but it's scary. It's scary, and he knows. I had one of our favorite places got a tie, and you know how you can choose a spice level.
Yeah.
I chose like spice level 7 or something. Like, oh, I need some extra flavor. First time ever having it. I'm sitting on my couch. You've been to my crib before. I was sitting on my couch and I sneezed hard, and my back, sharp pain went through it, bro. I screamed, bro.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So all in all, I feel like people are going to believe what they believe. Also, my lasting impression was, I think Ben Simmons is a guy who just excels and only cares about defense, rebounding, and playmaking.
That's what I got.
And that's what I got from it. And will that hinder him winning a championship? I believe on certain teams it will. I think
Right.
on this team it will not. I'm not saying they're going to win the championship. I'm not picking the Nets, but I'm saying I think that he's exactly what the Nets need.
Yeah.
I think he lucked up and ended up in the right place where
Right.
they're going to be like, this is your role. You're going to be like, what? I'm not saying he's Patrick Beverly, but he's better than Patrick Beverly. But you know how Patrick Beverly has his assigned role? Marcus Smart has his assigned role. I think he's cool with being like an all-star role player on a team full of superstars. He doesn't want to be the man. I don't want to shoot. JJ Redick asked him something. He said, are you going to shoot a bunch of threes? Or are you going to shoot, when you're on the Brooklyn Nets? He didn't say I will. He didn't say I want to. He said, he's like, yeah, no, he said, I'll need to. That told me that you're not going to shoot, bro. That's what I call. I'm like, you're not going to shoot, but that could be okay on that team with KD, with Kyrie, with Joe Harris, with Patty Mills, with what's the old boy's name, Cam Thomas or whatever. So
Okay.
that's pretty much what I got from it, Ralph. Not to be too long winded. I don't really have any like vitriol and venom because I don't know him personally. He seems like a nice guy. He's someone who I wanted the Lakers to draft when I was a Laker fan. So I'm not going to turn my back on dude and stuff like that. I just feel like some people may think that he's lying about stuff, but at the end of the day, bro, like I think he'll be okay. I think he ended up in the right spot.
I do think he ended up in the right spot. I do think that the whole being a sensitive athlete,
Mhm.
I do think he is a sensitive athlete.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are certain things, and I watched Shaq's um,
Response.
response to it. I had to turn it off when Shorty started talking because I think that one of the things that they don't, and no offense, what's
Yeah.
her name, Michelle Turner. I have no offense to no offense to her, no shade to her. It's just one thing that I don't think that gets talked about enough, which is
Mhm.
what he alluded to, is because she said he contradicted himself. He said that
Mhm.
Shaq and Chuck have an obligation to protect them, but they are analysts. And then she went on, and that's where, like, once she started talking, I turned it off because I'm like, you're missing what he's saying.
Mhm.
Because Chuck, Stephen A, I don't think Shaq does it, but
Yeah.
they're on the same show, so you kind of got to loop them in together. Where they'll talk about them as people
Mm.
and mention them as people, call them idiots and things like that.
You.
Where leave it at basketball. Don't talk
Thank
about me
you.
being no idiot. Don't call me soft. If I played soft, that's different than actually being soft.
Mhm.
And that's where I think that when he says you have a due diligence, it's your job to protect us. I'm not saying don't. I don't think he. And then he said, but it is your job to be an analyst. I'm not. I don't think he's saying don't criticize me, but don't talk about me as a person.
Yeah.
Leave it at basketball, and that's where I think that the Stephen A's, Chuck, to a certain degree, will start making it where it's
Personalizing it.
sport, and you're
Yeah.
personalizing like the person, calling them names outside of their names, things like that. That's where, like me, I differentiate the two,
Yeah.
because I do think you can talk about that play. Like Shaq said, I don't want to hear the excuses. Although he did say by the end of that statement, regardless of who was there, I should have punched it on him.
Right.
But when I turned around and I came around a spin, and I know just being an athlete, what you see out of your peripheral coming out of a spin move, because my patented move, I'm on baseline,
Mhm.
regardless of which side I'm on, I jab step one way, take one hard dribble, spin off of you, and I'm pretty much getting to the rim with a lot of people that this works against.
Ralph
And
Olajuwon.
so when you coming around from that spin move, what you may see might not be the reality of who's actually there.
Mhm.
So I can see him quick bang bang play. There's someone there, pass it off. But like Shaq said, you are 6'10". Who on the Hawks is stopping you from getting to the rim?
Right.
Regardless if it's Clint Capella.
But remember now, and I'm not defending him. Now, had it been a body, someone like you said, stopping, it would be a foul line. But even then, in a situation like there was no one who's really going to foul them, and
Right.
that's why JJ Redick was like, if you look at the tape, he's like, bro, he's like after after Ben Simmons said what he said and like broke it all down, he's like, yeah, man, but you can clearly see on the tape like you should have flushed that, bro. Like, he
Yeah,
even told him, he's like, you should just flush that, bro.
right.
So
Which is
yeah,
like, dude,
yeah,
how big you are, you said you were
right.
one of the strongest dudes on your team.
There we go.
And then on top of that, like, Joe, just take this. The one thing that I hope, because he did eventually take some accountability.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
So I do hope that, like, going forward, because he's, like you said, he's in the perfect situation. And they
Literally
alluded
perfect.
to it, saying that when you were drafted, you weren't drafted as a point guard. So
Mhm.
eventually you turned into a point guard. So I hope that conversation is one of those conversations that the Nets are having, to where I hope we're not seeing him at point and
No,
then
play him at 5.
Kyrie at 2. So it's like I hope they have him as a 4 or 5 and
Thank you,
keep
because we talked about it before on the show that he should be a
right.
small ball 5
Exactly.
or
And then
4.
they talked about it on the podcast as far as
Yep.
him being that big that can run with a Speedy Claxton, or not Speedy
Mhm.
Claxton, Nicholas Claxton.
Mhm.
And I forget what's his name. I know his last name is Sharp, but he's the 5 coming off the bench. And
Yeah.
so I think that it can work with him being able to guard 1 through 5. Him being the person that's guarding that best player on the team. So where Kyrie can worry about getting buckets. KD can worry about getting buckets. Don't worry about guarding that person. I got him.
Right.
And where KD has shown he can block shots coming off help. Claxton has shown he's a very mobile big, but also help defense coming off clearing the glass, grabbing rebounds. So I think that it could work. I'm curious to see what happens. We'll talk about that next and that extra credit that we're going to be doing after the show as far as the media day and what we expect as far as storylines. But on next, Reggie Bush was on the I Am Athlete podcast, and he was able to get his side of the story, which I never realized that he never ever talked about it. His side of the story as far as the whole Heisman shenanigans. Yeah. After watching it, is it time? I'm sure we felt the same way before the podcast that we do. I feel even more strongly about it to where like there is no doubt in my mind. Give that man his Heisman back. But do you feel the same?
Yeah, it's time, and it's been time. It's been time since S-Curl Waves, man, to give him his Heisman back, bro. You know what I'm saying? When he was rocking them waves, man, that's in that USC Trojan gear, bro. It's been time, man. Like the Heisman, with all due respect, the Heisman really should have never been taken away from him. I actually saw a segment they did, I think it was Keyshawn Johnson and Freddie Colvin. I don't know if you ever saw that. That was a couple months ago. It was on TV, and they broke it down. And like Freddie was like, "Oh well, this I understand that, but because of this, he can't get it back." I'm like, "Nah, bro, you capping, bro. Like, give that man his Heisman back, like straight up." And it was actually cool to finally see Ralph, like him actually like break everything down and like the whole situation and all that kind of can't speak today. I'm sorry. that whole scenario, but I don't believe that there was any competitive advantage. There was no competitive advantage. And let's be real, USC was a powerhouse anyway.
Right.
They were a powerhouse, and behind him, you had Lindell White at the time, right? You had Matt Leinart at quarterback. You had Lindell White. Who was the receiver they had?
Mike
Williams.
They had a couple. They had Mike Williams that tried to him and Maurice Corrett tried to come out.
And, right.
They tried to come out after 2 years instead of going for that. I think it's 3 years you got to be in college for.
Yeah. But yeah, give him his.
And then eventually, toward the end, that last year they had Dwayne Jarrett.
Yeah, give him his Heisman back. It didn't give him any type of advantage in losing to Texas, and it was a regular season award. So it's pretty much what you do from the duration of the first game and they're Pac-12 whatever, like all the way to the end. Like I just feel like the whole money situation of that is crazy, you know. We're not talking about what's old boy's name? Man, I haven't heard his name in a while. I was gonna say Tyrod Taylor. Your boy, Terrell Pryor. Terrell Pryor and the jersey selling and all that kind of stuff. Like, come on, man. So like for me, I've just, not to be too long-winded, I've always been an advocate of Reggie Bush getting his Heisman back. And when it got taken from him, as someone who does not support the ugly spoiled children university, USC, I was definitely supporting them that day. So in terms of Reggie Bush that day, in terms of him getting it back. So I don't know how long, honestly, my thing is, how long is this going to continue?
Right.
Like literally, like I don't know. I know you don't have the answers. We don't have the answers, Sway. But I'm like, how long is this going to continue? This is just egregious to me. So yeah, he deserves it back.
Because it's like if you watch the podcast itself, he talks about like the steps to getting it back, not only what it was. So it's like they investigated him, but they never talked to his family about the house. He gave his explanation about the house. Then it's like I've known those people since I was a sophomore, but then it's like a sophomore in high school. I've been going to church with them, but then it's like, come to find out, these people were criminals to begin with. Then on top of that, it's like they never did their homework, due diligence to even take this away from me. So they never had proof of anything that I did. They just went and talked to people, and it was word of mouth. And that's what he say, and that's eventually what got his Heisman taken away, which is wild because you got to prove stuff, and that's the part that like I don't like in this whole situation. And where then it was like the running back coach, in order to, I guess, and he explained it this way, in order for them to take anything away from a player, they have to prove that somebody on the team knew this was happening. So when they start damaging the team and finding the team, suspending teams and taking wins away, i.e. Joe Paterno knowing about the Sandusky situation, which he still is recognized as one of the greatest college football coaches. So now we just supposed to ignore everything that Reggie Bush was doing. And that's where I think that you got to make it make sense to a certain degree. So that running back coach, he called him T Mac. I forgot what his real name was. I think it was Tom McNair or something like that.
Yeah, but T Mac, I like that though.
And so, but he won his defamation case after 10 years. He was paid 6 months ago. He was paid $8 million by the NCAA. So now this leads to the step toward getting his Heisman back. He says it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
They asked him, how do they make it right? Give me my Heisman back. And I actually like that. I like them. I like how they use that quote. But the little bit of time we got left, it was a huge storyline. We're a little bit late because of the time period in which it happened. Not everything is out, but we have a little bit more of the situation at hand. What does Ime Udoka's suspension mean for the Celtics organization?
Well, I think when we think about what it means for the Celtics organization, it means that they had some turmoil in their organization, obviously, with the situation. We don't know all the full details of the specific names involved, but I just want to preface my comments by saying this, Ralph, and I'm sure I think you'll agree with me on this one, actually, because we talked about it. But we need to be very careful with social media and the type of information that we put out, or should I say, therefore, misinformation we put out, because you can hurt people, you can cause controversy and unwanted attention to people and individuals that had nothing to do with the situation that's of serious matter, right? And that puts people's character into question. And I bring that up because there was allegations where obviously Ime Udoka was having a consensual relationship with somebody within the Boston Celtics organization. That was what was reported. So it was obviously consensual, but we do know that he was married to one Nia Long, an actress. And so I say we got to be careful with misinformation, because there was obviously photos going around of the woman, you know what I'm saying, or the alleged woman, should I say. It kind of reminds me of the Kevin Samuels situation. Who was going on with the Kevin Samuels situation and the woman, and that was there, and misinformation. And we need to be very, very cognizant of not putting out information when you don't know.
Right.
We don't know. Just like the Kobe death thing, people said, oh, it was Rick Fox. And I know we've had Tar, I think, on our show. I think he might have brought that up on our show or on the side many times, like, let's not put out false information. That's very dangerous. That's very disrespectful. So I think that is something. The next thing is, I just don't like the way they handle it. Why did they publicize it? They didn't need to publicize it, because you're not respecting and protecting the women that are on the organization, that are a part of the staff, by making it public. This should have been a private matter. And then, maybe you find out certain details, but everything else, no. And then the other part of the organization is always the players. The players are a part of the organization. And I'll end with this. It's daunting, because we got to think about this. You already have the Jaylen Brown trade rumors, and so he's allegedly agitated or upset with that, and so that affects team chemistry. You lose a head coach who in their first year led you to prosperity, led you to the promised land, which is the NBA Finals, and was able to get them out of a rut, get them out of a hole early in the season, mid-season, and change and flip the culture around, turning into a winning culture, get the best out of his guys. So now you suspend that guy for a full year, and then you have Robert Williams injured. You lose Danilo Gallinari to, I think, a torn ACL. So all these things compile and compound together, and that puts you kind of behind the eight ball and gives an advantageous matchup to teams like the Boston Celtics and other uprising teams like maybe Atlanta Hawks, or maybe a Celtics, or a team that we hope gets together, like we talked about in the last segment, the Brooklyn Nets. So I think that situation as a whole ultimately has a negative impact, Ralph, on the Celtics organization.
I think too, man. I do think that this means they will not be getting back to the finals.
Yeah. Anything can happen, but yeah.
Anything can happen, but I think that's definitely what this means for that organization. I do think it's interesting, because it is one of those things where they leaked the information, but then it's like, if they were, let's just say, for instance, they did keep it internal. If we all of a sudden didn't see Ime Udoka on the sideline,
health reasons. That's all you have to say.
Then people are going to start to ask questions.
Yeah, just health reasons. Health reasons. They work.
Sink ships. Because if you ask enough people, not everybody's going to be on the same accord of just saying health reasons.
Hey, money talks. Give him that bag. Give him extra bag. Hey, hush money, bro. See, I play this out. I watch all the movies, but go ahead.
Because I do think that it is one of those things where like how Stephen A. and Malika had that interaction.
Yo, that was dope.
At first, I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to watch it at all because
I didn't either.
Stephen A. irritates me, and I'm actually a big fan of Malika Andrews. But then, like how she kind of was going about it was like, hold up, wait a minute,
that's no accountability.
That's not what he said. And so it's like for them, once he actually, the fact that he needed to then reiterate what he was saying is like, that's where I think that sometimes with these issues, it can be a little problematic in the conversation that's being had, because it's like, you're a guest on this show. How you going to start off? The first thing out your mouth is you coming out with attitude.
Facts. She had that pent up for a while.
Right. And so it's like, I think that when we start to have these conversations, it's like we're not staying on the task at hand. So where what I'm saying is not that this man, I'm not defending him at all, but if you were going to leak anything at all, put both parties out there. So then now, because there's so many different women that are within this organization,
right,
where the list isn't large, but it's a handful of women. So now when you see every woman, it's like, all right, which one of them look like it could be his type?
Right. Exactly. Hey, that's what people was doing.
So then it's like they're literally picking any like light-skinned chick that or someone that even kind of resembles anything like Nia Long, and it's like, yeah, that's his type. So we're gonna get these 3-4 caramel to light-skinned colored women and be like, oh, these are the ones. And then it's like instead of putting all of these people at risk, and now they're getting their DMs and emails and all types of names being thrown in. Just if you're gonna do that and leak any type of information, just put both of them out there to where we know exactly what's going on. You don't have to put all the information out there, but if you're gonna put some out there, put a lot of it out there. So now we're not drawing, because like you said, the one thing that sucks about this field that me and you are starting to get into is that people want to be the first to post something rather than posting accurate information.
Right.
And that's the thing that sucks. We seen it with the Kobe situation. I had a homie, family friend, that was killed at the Excalibur. And it was the first time that I saw like there's facts and it was actually being reported. And it was like the way that they spun that story was like the first time that I seen it. Then with the Kobe situation, where it was like Rick Fox was on the helicopter.
Yeah.
And then Shaq even talked about it when they did his when TNT did the one where they were sitting on the Lakers floor. They got everybody's perspectives and how they felt about Kobe. Shaq said that at first he thought Rick Fox was on that flight too.
Yeah.
And so
that's crazy.
So then, like, we got all these instances, and now it's this instance where what was put out as the person that it was with wasn't even the person. Then it was like we had another person after that. Then it's like that's not the person either. And so it's like at some point we got to get to a point as journalists, we have a responsibility to make sure we're putting out factual, correct information instead of trying to be the person that's putting the information out there first. Because clearly we weren't the first. Because most of the time it's going to be Woj or Adam Schefter, depending on what sport it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then what's the dude, Buster Olney for baseball? Them three. Those three are the ones that most people are gonna take them as credible sources, regardless of what it is that they're posting.
They're the gospel, right?
And so that's the end of our time, y'all. We are gonna come back. I think what time is it now? We're at 4:08. We're gonna wrap things up here, but come back at 4:30. We're gonna talk about NBA Media Day. Thank you all for watching. Come back, rock with us, give y'all a break, go get you some water, something to eat, come back, come shop.
Peace.
Peace.